Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg faced lawmakers in two hearings on Capitol Hill this past week. He answered questions on how data analytics firm Cambridge Analytica gained access to the personal information of millions of Facebook users. He was also asked a slew of other questions about the need for government regulation on tech and Russian influence in the 2016 election. Ian Sherr is executive director at CNET News and joins us now to talk about all of this. Ian, it feels like these hearings were hundreds of years ago, but that was just this past week. What do you think was the biggest takeaway for tech companies after watching the testimony? That regulation is coming?
Well, it definitely feels like Congress wants to do something. The struggle is that Congress hasn't really a clue what to do. There are a couple of people with ideas, including Senator Warner, who I actually sat down with and chatted with this week, and he gave a couple of policy prescriptions. But outside of that, there aren't that many people who really have substantial ideas. A lot of the things kicked around during the hearings were ideas around, maybe tightening privacy policies, but they're not sure how. One person suggested kind of mirroring the GDPR in Europe, which is this privacy policy that's kicking in next month. And other than that, there isn't that much. In fact, Senator Lindsey Graham pleaded with Mark Zuckerberg to come back to the Hill and help him write legislation, which I think shows how much Congress is struggling to find real answers.
And Facebook's, of course, been in the crosshairs here, but all of Silicon Valley was watching this testimony. Do you think there's one company or a few companies in particular that were watching with keen interest more than others?
I think Twitter and Google specifically are going to be next to deal with this. They have, both CEOs have been criticized in the past about advertising. They've both been implicated as being used or manipulated during the Russian investigation concerns. And so it's something that definitely they're going to be looking at. And in fact, again, I spoke with Senator Warner, which we have a story on CNET about, and he said, look, he plans to call them at least to the Intelligence Committee, if not more. So I think that there's definitely going to be more interest on Capitol Hill, specifically from internet company CEOs.
Ian, what's your cat's name?
Her name's Dia. And
Come on, let's see her. She wants to say hello. Can we see her for a second? Just pick her up.
Yeah, sure. She
Put
can
her in front of the
definitely
camera. She's on a weekend.
Now she's run away. Sorry.
Okay, all right.
She's camera shy.
We'll let her run off. So what then do you think are the next steps for Facebook as far as implementing the promises Zuckerberg made?
Yeah, I think the next steps are especially going to be that Zuckerberg needs to get more involved publicly. One of the things he talked about was that he's not comfortable with public speaking that much, with dealing with the press. And this was the first time he'd done a public hearing on Capitol Hill. And I think that, one of the things that I heard repeatedly this week while talking to various people in Washington is that he needs to really get involved. And the more that Silicon Valley pulls back and tries to avoid this situation, the worse it's going to get.
And you mentioned the regulations that could be implemented in Europe soon. A lot of people say that's not possible in the US because of freedom of speech rights and protection. So what do you expect any potential legislation to really look like?
I think, the lowest hanging fruit is what's already out there. It's the Honest Ads Act, which is slowly making its way through. And what it does is it requires that any political focused advertising on the internet be treated very similarly to the way that we do it on radio and television. They have to say who funded it. You're used to hearing the I'm so-and-so and I approve this ad, or this ad was paid for by the X and X committee to do Y and Z. Those types of things are going to definitely be coming down the pike. And in fact, Facebook has said that they're ready to already start implementing policies to follow that, even if the law never goes through. So that's an easy one. But after that, I think that Congress is going to follow Europe's lead. They're going to start trying to figure out, how do we handle this privacy problem? Because what happened with Cambridge Analytica and those 87 million profiles that Facebook lost control of, that is a huge blunder, and something that, is something that Congress really realizes they need to get their hands around.
We'll see where this moves from here. Ian Sherr, thanks for your time. We'll let you go so you can enjoy your weekend and take care of your cat.